You click this video because you want to know, what is Ipseology? I will tell you the answer, but first let me tell you who I am, because saying who you are is what Ipseology is all about. There are lots of ways I could describe myself, and I imagine there are many ways you would describe yourself. Who am I? Well, I'm Jason Jeffrey Jones. I have a doctorate in psychology. I used to study human memory. I'm a computational social scientist. That means I use lots of data to explain, or at the very least, describe what people do. But there's more to life than work. I'm a father, a husband, a son, the guy who walks the dog, Zuki. I love the Browns, Star Wars, and creating my own stuff that I think is cool. So what is Ipseology? Ipseology is a word I made up. It is the study of ipseity. Ipseity refers to selfhood. What makes someone an individual? The essential elements of their identity. When we do Ipseology, we study human selves using large data sets. Think about tens of millions of people from across the world describing themselves in 160 characters or less in a social media profile. Because it's impossible to read tens of millions of social media profile bios, but there's an incredible amount of rich information in those bios, I use computational methods to automate my analysis. One thing that makes Ipseology unique is that it is not one-shot. The modal social science analysis, including my own, is one-shot. We gather data one time, we analyze the data one time, and we have one set of conclusions. Ipseology is continuous. We're always collecting data. We're always analyzing the data. We measure consistently, that is, we keep our measures the same. We measure persistently, that is, we are measuring every single day, and we measure precisely. Precisely means we make precise estimates because we have such a large volume of data. As a simplifying assumption, I sometimes think of individuals, people like you, as bags of signifiers. What's a signifier? So here's the formal definition. An identity signifier is a symbol chosen by an individual to represent an aspect of their self. This is nice when we have language data. With language data, the signifiers are words. What words do people use to describe themselves? Again, to simplify, I like to think of signifiers like the elements on the periodic table. People, individuals, human selves are composed of signifiers, just like molecules are composed of individual elements. What can we do with this ipseological framework to say that people are composed of signifiers? Signifiers are words. The data is language, specifically personally expressed identity text. Language where an individual is describing themselves. For a long time, my primary data set was Twitter biographies. On Twitter, you're prompted to describe yourself in 160 characters or less. People do that in many ways. Some people, like this subject, are a model subject, a comma-delimited list of signifiers. Other people go in different directions, but always there are signifiers. Tom Hanks says he's an actor. Al Yankovic. What is the one thing you know about Al Yankovic? He's weird. So there's face validity There's useful information in these Twitter bios. Let me show you an example of Ipseology. We're going to look at the popularity of different words in Americans' Twitter bios over time. So from 2012 to 2023, I observed about 10 million Twitter users in the US and how they describe themselves in their bios. It may surprise you, or maybe not, that within 160 characters, about 30 words, to describe yourself, a lot of people use other people's names or other proper nouns. Let's take a look. Here are some names of musicians. We're going to look at the rate at which active American users of Twitter use these words, these names of other people, in their own bio. We're not looking at tweets, what people are talking about. We're saying within a bio, when you're describing yourself, at what rate do you use these names? Let's break down this chart. What's on the x-axis? It's time. These are years, from 2012 to 2023, the period in which I had access to good Twitter samples. One Direction, Bieber, start on top, start very popular. What is that on the y-axis? This is prevalence per 10,000 accounts. For every 10,000 American Twitter users who are tweeting at this time, what is the rate at which they're using these words in their bio, these other people's names in their bio? You can clearly see the rise of BTS. There's more to people than their musical taste, however. They also express their taste in science fiction. Let's add two more proper nouns, Star Wars and Star Trek. How many people are using these two-word phrases in their Twitter bios over time? Are there other names, proper nouns, that you think Americans might have come to identify with during this time period? Let's think about American politics. In 2020, out of every 10,000 American users of Twitter, I estimate 70 of them had the word Trump in their bio. Not that they tweeted about Trump, but maybe they did. But within their bio, 160 characters to describe themselves, they used the word Trump. Is there any proper noun that could eclipse this number? We've already broached one taboo subject. Why not another? Let's look at religious keywords, specifically proper nouns, within Americans' Twitter bios. So here's the time series for God, Jesus, compared to all of the other time series that we were looking at before. The tool I was showing you, I named after myself. It's called Jason Jeffrey Jones Identity Trends. Here's the link. All the data behind this web dashboard is freely available. Download it here. Of course, there's a lot more to say about Ipseology. I'll leave that for future videos. For now, if you're interested in reading more, visit Ipseology Central on the web. Identity Trends is just one of many ipseological datasets that I've built and made freely, openly available to researchers and just anyone who's curious. I'm compiling all these datasets into one project. One project I call the Ipseome. More on that later.